All right, 8th graders, it is Grammar Friday on a Thursday. Hope you're doing well today. This is one of the more interesting experiences in my teaching life so far, and probably one of the more interesting experiences in your studenting life so far. I have to try and write and mark and handle all these things, even as this is my camera here is currently up on a tripod and all this, and you can even see the tripod leg there and so forth. So we will just do as best we can. I want to point out to you here, we're working on these simple infinitives. It's actually asking us to mark them with parentheses, which is interesting, of course, because generally we've done that with prepositional phrases, marking them as parentheses. We had even a brief discussion about this, a question or a comment about them during our live meet this week about how infinitives can be a little tough and a little confusing. So I hope to talk about that just briefly, and then we'll run through a few of these together. And as I've mentioned actually in class a couple times, the most confusing kind of thing is where sometimes professional grammarians argue with one another. Okay, linguists, people who study language and grammar for a living, and like I've mentioned before, they quite literally have conferences and write papers and write books and argue for their opinions on how certain things should be organized and understood in terms of the generation of grammar in our brains and in our minds and ears and mouths and so forth. Well, whenever they're arguing about that, you know it's going to be a little bit more difficult to have a set and stable pattern here as maybe even someone in 8th grade. Let me show you really quick what's going on and kind of the argument that's being made here. So we know that a word like run is a verb. Run is obviously a verb. Okay, we're all familiar on that. Obviously, it can then be used in other parts of speech, but at root in its base is a verb. That's where we'll find it. The part of speech we'll see in the dictionary. But then this particle in English, to, makes it an infinitive. It is no longer finite or related to time. Run was present, will run is future, ran is past, all that. Whenever there is a verb that can sort of, shall we say, serve as the center of a sentence, right? If I say I run, it's actually a complete sentence. But if I say I to run, it's not a complete sentence. Any main verb, a verb that can serve as the center of a sentence like that, is related to time. It's finite. It shows time, past, present, or future. But this guy is infinite. He's not finite. He doesn't show a relationship with time. He's been stripped of that aspect of his verbhood. And in fact, he is now a noun, basically, right? To run is fun. Okay, I would say that because I appreciate running. Maybe some people hate cross country and they'd say to run is dreadful, something along those lines. Okay, now one of the things that happens that can be very difficult is we often say in our language things like we had to run. Okay, we had to run. Now what's happening here in part is that had is a very plain vanilla kind of verb. It's a wishy-washy verb. It hardly means anything in this sentence, frankly. It's almost like a dummy handle, that door handle I like to refer to on a linen closet or something. It's not maybe a functioning locking door handle. You just pull on it. It's a place to put your hand and pull. In English, we do this quite often. For example, we had to run. Why not just say we ran? I gave a talk. Why not just say I talked, or something along those lines? Now, this is often referred to as a complementary infinitive, and some people would argue that the entire phrase, including the complementary infinitive, should be marked as a verb phrase in that sense. We had to run. Others would say, hold on a minute, we had to run. To run is actually, it's a noun phrase because it's an infinitive. An infinitive is always a noun phrase. And so we is the subject pronoun, had is the verb, and to run is the direct object because to run is a noun phrase. Okay. This is seen a little more clearly actually when we add a prepositional phrase. We had to run to the store. Sorry, this is where my hand is getting a little stuck because my arm's coming through the legs of the tripod. We had to run to the store. So this is where, even frankly, I would argue from a linguistic standpoint, a standpoint of analyzing what's going on when we speak and hear. What's going on in this case is to run. That is the opening of the actual infinitive phrase. To the store then is a prepositional phrase modifying the infinitive within the infinitive phrase. So what's going on is this isn't just any running. We had to run, and it just happened to be to the store, right? Technically, if that's what was going on, this person would be saying, my legs were restless. I run all the time. I'm so much into cross country. I just love to run. I had to run. I couldn't think of anywhere else to go, so I ran to the store. Instead of running to the coffee shop, instead of running to get, a Gatorade at the convenience store or something, I ran to Walmart. I ran to that store. I had to run to somewhere, so I ran to the store. But that's not really what this person seems to be getting at. Okay, to run to the store is modifying to run. And so this is the infinitive phrase, the whole thing, because it's the infinitive and its modifiers. The infinitive and its modifiers. Notice as well, we could say something like to run quickly to the store. And once again, quickly, if we insert it there with a caret, it would have to be part of the infinitive phrase. So actually what happens then, yes, we is a subject pronoun, had is a verb, to run quickly to the store. Okay, to run quickly to the store, the infinitive and its modifiers is all the direct object. That is the way that many linguists would analyze this. That's the way that I would argue it ought to be analyzed. Someone could try and look at it like we were doing up above. We had to run, and then it would merely be prepositional phrase to the store. At the end of the day, is it going to change the world which way it goes? I think it's important. I've actually had to analyze some of these things in other languages as well, including English and things like that. That's what happens when you study linguistics. But I do think actually there is a difference made, and it is worthwhile. But that's actually not what we're going into here. I just wanted to show you this in order that it would be clear to you why I'm doing what I'm doing and why I'm putting it the way I'm putting it. So the entire phrase, remember, a phrase is a group of related words, okay? It doesn't matter technically how big that group is. Technically, for the purposes of grammar, that group could be one word, or it could be two words, or in this case, it could be 6 words. To run quickly to the store, 6 words. So this phrase is the direct object, which shouldn't be too surprising to you, because actually going back to last year and before then, you have been analyzing prepositional phrases as an adjective or as an adverb, as adjectival or as adverbial. You've been analyzing prepositional phrases that way. And so it shouldn't be too surprising then when an infinitive phrase is working in a similar fashion. Okay, so now we need to get right on with our work. Again, I'm going to move a little fast. Don't hesitate to pause it if you need to see the markings more clearly, okay? Mark all simple infinitives with parentheses, indicate their parts of speech. If the infinitive is a noun, mark its function. If it's an adjective or adverb, draw an arrow from the infinitive to the word modified. So we certainly need to leave. Okay, so we've got to leave going on right there. There is just the simple infinitive phrase. We're not really marking anything else related to it. Indicate its part of speech. If the infinitive is a noun, mark its function. Okay, we, do you see, is the subject pronoun. Need is the verb. Need. Who needs? We need. We need what? We need this thing called to leave. All right? Now, to leave is a bit of a funny thing because it's not a thing like a pen. It's not a thing like a coffee mug or something like that. But in one sense, it is a thing. It's a set of actions. It's a particular pattern of interacting socially where we say goodbye and so forth. A lot of us haven't done that very much, of course, recently, being quarantined or something. But that's what's going on here. To leave is functioning as a noun. Okay, so that is what's happening. That's all we're required to do. We're just required to handle the simple infinitives. Scouts returned to the fort to report. Now, it's having a good time testing you here because we have the word to in a couple of places. Now, to the fort here, notice that is showing a relationship in space and time. These scouts are returning, okay, they returned. Who returned? A subject noun. They returned to the fort, prepositional phrase. It's showing where they returned. So we don't want to be thrown off by that. Here is the one that is at root a verb, report, but by the particle to. it is made into an infinitive. Now this one actually could be expanded in our way of speaking English to something like scouts return to the fort in order to report. Okay, notice here it's not at all working like a direct object or an indirect object, certainly not a subject or anything like that. In this case, because it is in order to, just the way that to the fort is showing where the returning took place, report is showing why or to what end the returning took place. This is related to purpose or result. What was the purpose of the returning? To report. So this time it is adverbial modifying the verb. The baby started to cry. Okay, to cry, real simple. It's a complementary infinitive with an E, complementary, complementary infinitive, working together with the main verb in that way. However, again, because of what I argued over here, I still do mark this as a noun in this case. She started, who started? The baby started, subject noun. Here's the verb. The baby started what? The baby started to cry. Okay, what did the baby start? The baby started this action of crying. That's the idea. To cry is a noun describing the action. To succeed, we must start a new business. To succeed. Now, we're not going to succeed. We're not like going to a particular place. We're not moving from somewhere to some place that's called succeed. This is a clipping here, shortening. It's an elliptical for in order to succeed. Okay. Must start. Who must start? We must start. What must we start? This new business is direct object. So do you see, in order to succeed, then it's not functioning like a noun. It is actually then coming back and modifying the verb, so it is adverbial. Well, this video, I think, is quite long enough at this point, but it's been good to get into worksheet 60 there and take a look at what's happening. Hopefully that is helpful to you as you continue on to do the second half. Take care.